developments in the judiciary. Well, joined this morning by Mr. Doka Ejilibe. He's also a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Well, interesting matter going on, and then amazing. I was just saying in the opening sequence that, listen, if you're not just watching proceedings, you might, the opinion you had yesterday could have just been overtaken with current developments here. But look at what's going on now. All kinds of perspectives going on. You've also been watching this. Do you see an end in all of this?
Well, there has to be an end. My fear is, how long will it take for this end to come? Because if the rest, the subject matter is already destroyed, no matter what happens, I don't know. I don't even think Salami has up to 2 years, you know, to stay in the bench. So what happens, you know, the normal Nigerian thing, if this matter drags beyond then, so what will I have achieved?
So what will be the rest in this case?
The rest in this case is the office
of the
he's occupying,
PCA.
Of the PCA.
How long does he have left?
Well, I don't know his age.
Not up to 2 years.
Yeah, not up to 2 years, because the retirement age is 70.
Oh.
And going by what we found out that they said he and CJN were classmates and schoolmates, and the CJN will be retiring August 26 or something like that. So I'm sure his own is also due, and all those things.
Comment on this argument in the court of public opinion, if you will, where there seems to be just sharply divided, both along political lines, maybe somewhat legal lines also, where they say, can the president actually accept a recommendation from the NJC and do what it did?
Yeah, I think it was a hasty, decision on his own part.
How so?
Granted, he's not a lawyer, but I mean, this is a man who went to school without shoes and a lecturer and all those things. You don't have to be a lawyer to be able to take a holistic view of certain issues, so that you have a clearer perception. And meanwhile, he has the office of the Attorney General, so he must have gotten advice one way or the other.
Yeah, but what if what he did was from the advice of the AG?
What we're saying is, what he even said was contradictory, because he knows, as a matter of law, that he does not even have the power to remove, unless by resolution or to tell of the Senate.
That's when you're getting a substantive president of the Court of Appeal.
No, what we're saying is that this NJC has already said they can recommend.
Yeah.
They can't go beyond that, because that is the only power they have. They can recommend. Then if they recommend, on that recommendation, there has to be an assent of 2/3 majority before he can even retire or remove him.
It reminds us of the time we had our ailing president, late Aradwa, God bless his soul. We had to look at the Constitution, and we're trying to interpret and put meaning to all of that. Now, when they talk about removal and suspension, now we're getting to define two terms now all too soon again. Removal and suspension in this case, they're quite different, isn't it?
It's also a matter of being pedantic, because there's not much difference between them, just a thin line. Now, if you suspend somebody, you have removed the person. Though, if you look at all the additional definitions, it says temporary removal. It doesn't matter whether it's temporary. It's indefinite. So they have achieved their aim by suspending him. The other thing is just for, so that it will look legalistic when the president now appoints an acting judge and the Senate now does what they're expected to do by passing the resolution. But he has effectively been removed, because he has been stopped from performing in his office.
In an ideal situation, how does it work when you talk about the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation? Maybe you're the president, and an issue like this happens, and you know that there is a section in a constitution that gives you or does not give you any kind of power to act on a particular issue. What do you do as the AGF? Because we're saying all of this so that we don't just get into the meat proper, as we understand from the headlines that they're going to court. So let's look at some other issues now bordering on the same matter.
Yeah, I'm very sorry to say that, but I think there's been clamor over time in the past, for the office of AGF to be separated from the from the office of the Minister of Justice to be separated from the office of Attorney General of the Federation. Why people are saying this is that more often than not, the person who occupies the office of the AGF is an appointee of the president, and it's all politics, because if you look at this whole thing, what role did the present AGF play? Now, he's meant to be the in fact, his role is constitutional,
Yeah, but on that school of thought, I mean, you've also had a number of people say, well, If you all are talking about separating that position, one is appointed, one is not, how do the justices come up in the first place? And they appointed, made the recommendations by politicians also? Isn't it the same thing technically?
No, but there's a process they go before they appoint you as a judge. I know they have something they call a judicial service committee and all those things, you know. So they recommend you, you know. Yes, the president appoints you. It's a two different thing. But this other one, the office of the AGF, the president does not need any recommendation.
Yeah, but if from what we've heard on this program, various lawyers who have come and spoken to us say, listen, over 95% of recommendations from governors about who becomes judges, they always go through.
Yeah.
So that's almost like the same thing politicians
I agree, because and that is our undoing, you know, especially in the judiciary, when you rely on people to, you know, make recommendations of who will be a judge or not, because he who pays the piper, you will still remember that Mr. XYZ, the politician, is because of him that you are in this position. But you see, what I'm saying, why I'm blaming the AGF and the president, if you look at the whole fact finding and the decision or conclusion reached, it is not backed by evidence. Now, in one breath, you are saying that the CJN shouldn't have interfered in the Sokoto appeal. And in one breath, you are saying that apparently he did it to, you know, bring a decency.
In good faith.
In good faith. Now, how do you begin to input motive? It's speculation.
No, but remember, if we could take it back, even here on this program, we've talked about the Sokoto matter. At the time it happened,
yes,
when the late president, when he was there, there were so many questions raised about this matter. Only for us to hear much later that this CJN actually approached the PCA, according to the PCA, to do something about that matter. And the judiciary just never spoke up about it. So now that they made recommendations to the president, everybody seems to be crying wolf further.
Yeah, because they were trying to paper it over. You know, like people say it's a family affair. It's not a family affair. And one reason why I fought Salami was he had the courage and the boldness to go to court. And he swore an affidavit on oath, you know, stating copiously of the interference, of the meeting they had, of what the CJ had told him. Now, some people actually, I think he was misled because he had no reason to withdraw that matter from court. Immediately he did that, they now began to set up all these panels. And these panels, if you look at their decision, I think with all due respect, it was geared towards achieving one objective. Now between these two people, who can we sacrifice?
No, but if all these protests, which we see in the front pages of papers and in the news, why didn't they come up previously asking to both of them to just leave the scene while all of this goes on? Wouldn't those who think that, okay, well, that has a semblance of justice, wouldn't they have been able to just shift their swords and not make any such comments now? Because one person is off the hook, everybody seems to be saying, no, bring him back, bring him back. What about the conditions precedent?
For me, I have no sympathy, because it's not a matter you have to bring in sentiments into. I'm not saying that you know, both of them shouldn't have been sacrificed. I'm not taking sides. What I'm saying is that looking at the facts, you know, the conclusion reached by the Abdullahi panel and the decision reached, if you look at it, it cannot stand. There's no basis for that. Now, in one breath, you have accepted that this man actually interfered.
That's the panel.
That's the CJN. Yes, they did.